Hi everyone, welcome back to Weather for Weather Geeks, the Tuesday evening edition. It's the final edition of winter, astronomical winter anyway, in the northern hemisphere. It comes to an end this evening at 11:06 as we reach the vernal equinox. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but first, it's also Severe Weather Awareness Week this week. So on this video, on our newscasts, on social media, we're talking about a lot of aspects of severe weather as we head into the spring and summer seasons. The Severe Weather Awareness Week in the state of Ohio includes the statewide tornado drill coming up Wednesday morning at 9:50. Tornado sirens will be tested throughout the state. But, if you're watching this video, chances are you kind of know the drill when it comes to tornado sirens. They're not the best way, certainly, of getting weather warnings. They should be almost no one's first way and only way of getting weather warnings. We have lots of tools at our disposal here in 2024, including NOAA weather radios, which are easy to program. They don't require a cell phone signal. They're very, very super reliable, and it's kind of like a fire or a smoke detector, I should say, for weather. It's going to save your life potentially because it's so reliable, and again, doesn't depend on electricity and cell signals and things like that. It can be plugged in, but it also can be battery operated. Of course, the Storm Tracker 21 app is your best local weather app with push alerts turned on that. You won't go wrong there. Wireless emergency alerts, not something that a lot of people know about, but within the settings of your phone, if you're using an iPhone, go to Settings and Notifications, and down at the bottom of the screen you'll find WEA, Wireless Emergency Alerts. By default on most devices this is toggled on. Just make sure it's still toggled on though, because you don't want to miss out on those. You can also make sure that you have your Amber Alerts toggle on down in that same screen. Now if you're using an Android device, the setup is going to be a little bit different here, but it's the same idea. Go into your settings and you'll find WEA, Wireless Emergency Alerts. Wow, last evening, on social media today, I posted a video of just a small portion of my drive home last night. We had a snow squall that came across the Ohio Turnpike and then kind of dove like this last evening, and I drove out of Youngstown right into that snow squall. And, it was blinding. It was probably under a quarter-mile visibility for a while from about 224 on south. If it was not for a couple of cars that were in front of me and I could see their taillights, and we were driving with hazards on even, I probably would have had to pull over because I couldn't see the road at all, really. At that time of night, after our 11 o'clock newscast, there's not many cars out, there's not many plows out typically, and so, kind of driving on virgin snow, if you will, it can be really hard to tell where you're going if you're one of the only cars out there and the lanes are not clear, you can't see any lines. It's no fun at all. So I took it nice and slow and got through it, but that was a pretty bad drive last night. I've had some pretty tough drives late at night before with my hours going home at 11:30 at night. In the wintertime it can be dicey, and that was one of the more dicey ones I have had here in this month of March, and after a fairly snowless winter. Kind of ironic that in the middle of March I had probably my worst drive in a couple of winters last night. Nothing too dramatic out there today, just a lot of clouds around. We had some sunny breaks earlier on. I do think the sky will partially clear for a time this evening before clouds roll back in later on tonight. Yeah, the vernal equinox occurs at 11:06 this evening Eastern time. That is the point in which the sun's direct rays are over the equator, and so while you might think that means equal day and equal night, it's not quite that simple actually. Something called the equilux is something we had a few days ago, back on Saturday. That's when we actually had 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. That always occurs a few days before the equinox in March and a few days after the equinox in September. The reason for the disparity, if you will, a few different reasons. One is our latitude. We don't live anywhere near the equator. The second is refraction of sunlight makes exact sunrise and sunset times be a little bit off a little bit when it comes to times around the equinox. And also, the way we measure sunrise and sunset, both defined as when the top of the sun's disk drops below the horizon or rises above the horizon. Because of that definition, there can be a little bit of a lag between the equilux and the equinox in our part of the world and in many other parts of the world as well. Blustery day coming up on the first full day of spring on Wednesday. Not so much in the morning, but in the afternoon, I think these numbers may be even a little low. I could see where we get a 30, 35, even 40 mile per hour gust before the afternoon is through. We've got a cold front coming through. Not much moisture to work with this front, so we're not looking at a lot of precipitation on Wednesday. But yes, there can be a couple of flurries, maybe a raindrop in some spots. And the timing of this front is such that we may actually see our warmest temperature late morning, very early in the afternoon, with temperatures gliding back a handful of degrees as the afternoon wears on. So just not a very nice day once again. We're in kind of the middle of a crummy stretch of March weather right now. We'll squeeze in a decent day coming up on Thursday, but I'll tell you, those temperatures Thursday morning, there's going to be some teens, and probably Friday morning as well. In fact, the two coldest nights, I should say, that we'll have until sometime next winter probably, or very late next fall, they're coming up, those nights, Wednesday night and Thursday night. I think we'll see widespread teens. But Thursday itself looking okay. Friday is looking a little bit cloudier, especially as we get into the afternoon. This will be a healthy snowstorm up across the parts of the central and northern Great Lakes, the upper Midwest, where they've had very little snow, of course, during the winter season. We're not going to see the snow around here because we'll get a punch of warmer air that will make sure, or will ensure, I should say, that we'll have liquid precipitation, rain showers, Friday afternoon into Friday evening. All right, we expect some recovery in our temperatures as we go into next week. Now, we're not going to get back into the abnormally warm pattern we've been in so often in the last several weeks, in the last handful of months, but we are going to get into a kind of a more tolerable pattern, if you will, as we get into next week and maybe the first couple of days of April, with the coldest anomaly centered out west. It's not a very warm pattern, but it's not as cold as the current pattern. And so keep your expectations in check here. Don't think we'll see 70 or certainly not 75 again anytime real soon, but I do think we'll see a couple of days at least next week where we have highs pretty close to 60, a few degrees above the average. That'll do it for me tonight on Weather for Weather Geeks. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let's do it again coming up on Wednesday. See you then.